Welcome back to Business Boone, a product of the Boone County Chamber and hosted by Deepen Talent Strategies. I'm Shauna Lake.
And I'm Lauren Byram. And today we are joined by Erika Steele, the owner of Just Love Coffee Cafe. Thank you so much for coming. How are you?
My pleasure. I'm great.
Thanks for being here.
Yes,
very
thank
good to be
you.
here.
So one thing we like to ask all of our guests, if your life was a movie, what would the title be?
Yeah, so I was actually talking to my sister about this a few weeks ago, and I was like, if I wrote an autobiography, it would be My Life as a Hallmark Movie.
That sounds lovely.
Minus the divorcee part of the widower part, just the midlife career pivot.
Nice.
I got that wrapped up.
Well, we're excited to hear more about the career pivot and you and your business growth. But before we dive into that, just tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Sure. So my name's Erika. I, as a kid, my dream of, what I always thought I would do when I grew up was to work at NASA. So I went to Purdue. I became an engineer. And right off the bat, my dream came true. I graduated from Purdue and moved to Houston and started working on the space station software.
Wow.
A lot of fun. It's one of those, I checked that box, and now what? And I really never thought I would leave engineering. And then my husband and I were excited to start our family. We got pregnant with twins, wow, okay. And so I decided I was going to take a little, what I thought was a pause in my career to raise my babies. And quickly, as I learned, stay-at-home mom is a wonderful career for a lot of people. It's really tough for me. And so I started this little side job working at a nonprofit, thinking that literally after 1 year I would go right back into engineering. And that little side job turned into a 10-year career of running a nonprofit. That was everything I ever dreamed, didn't dream of, but really enjoyed. And again, kind of thought that was it. That's all I would do. I would retire there, be done. And my husband had this brilliant idea to move to Indiana, which was, me coming home. And I was like, well, that sounds awesome. And so we decided, well, that would be good for our family. So we made that life change, moved up here, made the decision in January of 2020. Started building a house, and boom, this little thing called COVID hit. And so in that time of the transition, it was like, well, do I go back in engineering? Mm-hmm. Do I go back into nonprofit work? And really we were contacted by a franchise coach and said, have you ever thought about business ownership? And I said no, but my husband has. It was always his dream to be an entrepreneur. And so we kind of were like, well, let's explore it a little bit. And we got introduced to Just Love Coffee Cafe and really loved the vision and the mission that they had. And I thought, as a first-time business owner, I want someone to do this with. I want someone to kind of tell me what I don't know. And so we started exploring franchising, and 5 years later, here we are.
I remember meeting you in 2020.
Yes.
And then literally bumping into you about 3 months ago.
Yes.
And then to hear how it has evolved when you were having those explorations.
Yeah.
And then it's been so fun to get caught up again and hear how it all came to fruition. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I always say, as soon as I make a plan, God changes it, and and so I'm grateful for the different opportunities that I've had in life and the different career opportunities I've had. This has been fun and challenging, and I look at the journey, and the journey's been completely worth it. Nothing like what you expect it to be, but glad that we took that step.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people on the podcast talk about interesting career progressions, but I don't think anyone has started at NASA before.
No, I don't think so.
This is very exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'm still a NASA nerd at heart. Definitely was watching the launch and excited to hear all the updates.
Yeah.
And and I love to watch NASA TV and be like, oh, I know who's on there. Who's on the console. So.
Wow,
that's
so
really
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
So you talked about your husband wanting to be an entrepreneur and somebody reaching out to you. So did they talk to you about opening up Just Love Coffee, or did they give you multiple different opportunities?
Yeah.
And once you've decided on that, how did you decide what community to go into?
Yeah. So I was initially approached by a franchise coach.
Okay.
And so really their job is they represent a number of franchises, different, all kinds of different flavors. And so the first thing they did was kind of do kind of almost a personality assessment, like, you know, what are you and your husband looking for in a business? You know, and they kind of help match you to, you know, prospective franchises. And then you go through what they call a discovery day, and you would get to know the franchise and decide if this is something that, you know, you're interested in. So, you know, the first, we were the ones that were like, well, we really want a community aspect. Like, it's not, for us, it's not just a business. It's about how we can give back to the community and be part of the community. And so it was never, you know, it was always something like, we wanted a storefront, we wanted a place where relationships could be developed, where relationships could thrive. And so when we started exploring the different, you know, opportunities, Just Love came up, and it's their core values: be genuine, be excellent, and be a catalyst for love. And those three values aligned so perfectly with who we were and what we were trying to accomplish in a business. And so that's really why we selected that particular franchise. Community-wise, because it is about community, we really thought we would be right in our backyard. And like I said, we moved prior to making this business decision. So when we moved to Indiana, again, I grew up on the south side. I grew up in Greenwood, went to Purdue, but my whole family had kind of migrated. My mom lives in Westfield. My sister was getting married, and they were moving to Whitestown. And she had to describe where that was on the map, because I was like, I don't even know where Whitestown is anymore. And so we moved to Whitestown, built our house, and then when we started looking for locations for our business, again, it was still in the midst of COVID. So real estate there was not a lot of options, and then the options that we were finding, we really thought, well, there's this great development right here in Whitestown. We'll be right there, right next to where we live. And just the price of real estate was so high, and a great spot came open in Carmel. We kind of assessed, you know, where it was, and it really kind of felt like that could be what we call our flagship, you know, like, because we really at the time thought we would have multiple locations, and that could be, you know, what would establish us, and then we would branch off from there. And we're like, well, that's pretty central. And so our first location was Carmel. We got that up and running and thought, this might be enough. we're pretty good right now. Like, it's hard. And so and then all of a sudden we were in a meeting, and I was in a meeting with the Boone County Chamber at Four Finger Distillery in Lebanon, and a conversation happened with, hey, we were thinking about having coffee in our location here. Is this something you would be interested in? And we're like, well, we're not having to build a building. We're not having to, you know, what would it look like to just bring some of our services right here to what's already existing in the distillery? And they built us a little space, and what honestly was so attractive to us about that is it is our community. It is Boone County, where we have roots right now. And so I love Carmel. We have an amazing community there, but it's been really fun to kind of navigate and, you know, build in our backyard, I should say.
Sure.
So, yeah,
that's a really cool story.
It really is. You mentioned that it has been hard at times. Tell us more about some of the things that have been particularly challenging, but also what have you found to be rewarding?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the challenge right now is just costs. You know, we opened in COVID when supply chain was really challenged. You know, if you look at the price of coffee over the last probably year and a half, it's skyrocketed. Real estate's expensive. I mean, everything, you know, so as you're navigating, it's like, I told someone, I'm like, if I could just sell a cup of coffee for $20, it'd be great, you know, but who's going to buy that? And so I'm just really kind of, learning how to operate a business. You know, I would say there's nothing that prepared me better than running a nonprofit, because you wear so many hats in a nonprofit, and that was kind of the same thing with small business ownership. You do it all. I mean, one minute you're catering, the next minute you're plunging a toilet. You know, you kind of just have to learn how to do it all, and you know, and learn how to scale and just make the right connections. So that's, you know, been the challenges, but I go back to, it's all about the people, and that is the most rewarding aspect of it. I mean, I have customers where I've seen them come in, get engaged, get married, have babies. You know, you just, I always say they come in as a customer and they leave as a friend. And in a lot of ways, they leave as a family. And, you know, I see that with the way that the customers interact with my team, with me, and it's just beautiful. It's really, there's just something so unique about a cafe/coffee shop environment where you really do like develop those long-term relationships with people, and you know their names, you know their orders, but more than that, you know their kids names, you know their dogs' names, you know what's going on in their life, and it's really special.
Yeah.
So how did you approach creating that space in order for those, you know, engagements to happen and those, you know, connections to happen where you meet the friends and they become family? How did you create that space?
Yeah, so I mean, one, I think it's really important that I'm hiring people that that help foster that environment. And so it's really important to me when I'm hiring that I'm looking for people that are able to engage and have those conversations and create that kind of space, because I can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And so that's really important, that I'm building a team that's, you know, that we're collectively working together for that. The other thing is, you know, in so many places, and that's one of, I would say, a double-edged sword with our location in Carmel. I said that perfect space came available. Well, that perfect space was too big, and is bigger than what we really need, especially to operate a coffee shop. And so I pay for that, that extra space. But it does allow so many opportunities for groups, for small groups, for, you know, Bible studies, like just so many different things that come into that space. And I would say the same thing about the location in Lebanon as well, is it's got so much great room to spread out. And so it's not like a typical coffee shop environment where you're kind of on top of each other and you can overhear conversations. There's a place where you can kind of go and tuck away and have that private conversation or whatnot. And so, you know, the engagement starts at the counter, but it always, you know, leads to the community space that, you know, people are sharing. And the really cool thing, I mean, it really happens very organically, but, you know, because we have customers that are in regularly, like day after day after day, they start developing relationships with one another.
Oh, I bet.
And so, you know, we'll have customers like, hey, I haven't seen so-and-so in so long, and, you know, well, they're on vacation, or, you know, whatnot. So, I mean, it's really unique and beautiful.
That's the real definition of community, when you know your customer's vacation schedule.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great. You mentioned the partnership and collaboration with Four Finger Distillery. What other initiatives or organizations have you been able to collaborate with as a business?
Yeah, well, for me, for someone that was in the nonprofit space, it's so important to me that I'm supporting local grassroots nonprofits. And so, you know, I will tell you, you know, when my husband and I opened our business, it was really with the idea of how can we create something that can give back. You know, because I look at, as a nonprofit leader, how it was the small businesses that supported all of our efforts and our endeavors, and how it was so, I guess, encouraged and motivated by these these small business leaders and their capacity to give. And so I was like, man, that's what I really want to create. Well, along this journey, as I've said, it's hard. You know, it's hard to deal with the rising costs and all that. And so there was a point in the journey, probably about a year and a half ago, and I'm like, man, I'm just not able to give like I want to, like, or as much as I want to. And so I thought, there was kind of this conversation I had with God, and it was like, you know, don't look at what you don't have, but look at what you do have. And what I do have is an incredible cafe, an incredible space. And so there's been opportunities for nonprofits to come in and use the space to do like a small fundraiser, or I've got a crew that comes in and does a worship night. I've got an adoption group that comes in and does like a support group at night. And we've done like Coffee House for Causes. And so just doing different, using, you know, the spaces that I have, or the facilities that I have to give back. And then, you know, I have a coffee cart that goes mobile. So I'm able to support different nonprofits through my mobile coffee cart, either sometimes they'll bring me out as a caterer, but oftentimes I'm able to just to give back and donate those services as well. So
that's terrific. I would love to hear more about the coffee cart.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I was out there this morning. I was at Carmel Palladium serving a board breakfast this morning. So it's really just a coffee shop on wheels. I break it down. It fits in the back of my car. I pop it up and serve lattes, hot iced refreshers, chai teas, that kind of thing.
Sounds
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, it really does. I could use one right now.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what are your goals for growth? Are you thinking about expanding past Four Fingers, or?
So my husband always said he wanted 5. I always said I'm good with 1. So then we kind of thought, well, maybe we'll do 3. Right now, I would say we are head down figuring out Four Finger in Lebanon and just really making sure that we are doing that effort well. We opened in October, so it's still just about 6 months in.
Yeah.
And I always say there's nothing that's you can really compare being a small business ownership to, but it's very similar to having a baby, So those first sleepless nights of newborn, and then they kind of become a little toddler, and they kind of, you can kind of walk away a little bit, but still very hands-on. And so we're very much in that toddler phase where I can't leave it for too long, and I'm not really looking past that. We're just kind of making sure that both, and bringing in another one that Carmel continues to run strong, so that I can focus on Lebanon and really get it going well, and really just continuing to meet and make the connections in the communities. So
it sounds like you are. So that's awesome.
Yeah, keep it up. Well, we always like to end by asking our guests, what is something that you know now that you wish you had known earlier in your career?
I will say, you asked about challenges earlier, and it's funny, I was complaining the other day about how I never knew as a business owner how many problems I would have with plumbing. So I'm like, man, I really should have got a plumbing license. But it's really knowing that, in small business, a lot of different challenges are going to be thrown your way. And so being able to think through those, problem solve, and think about, it's really about the connection. So seriously, about, I guess, a couple weeks ago, we were getting ready to go on vacation, and we had a really weird power blip in our store, and I'm like, I think something's going on with our power, and it was like, we were literally leaving the next day, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And so it's like, who do I know that's an electrician? Well, I don't know any electricians, but I bet our landlord does. So, it's always thinking about how can I, when I don't know an answer, someone does.
Yes.
And so who can I connect with and get the right answer?
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because we put too much pressure on ourselves to know all of the answers.
Yeah.
You just have to keep building your network, because somebody else will know something.
That's right.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And then if people wanted to learn more about you or the business, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so our website, Just Love Coffee Cafe, we've got one for Carmel and one for Lebanon. You can go on to locations and find that. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and I am the one that's usually behind the curtain on that. So you can PM me, and I will get to it. I will get your message, or there is a messaging tool on our website as well.
Excellent.
So, yes.
Thank you so much for being with us, Erika. It's been great.
My pleasure.
Nice. And we will be back with more insightful conversations. Until then, continue leading and growing with purpose. Good job.
Thank
Thank you.